Mr. Griffith.
Well, thank you very much. I like to engage in colloquies and talk about issues. And, what's interesting about this is that I do represent a coal district. But if we shut down all of this, as we've discussed in the Green New Deal, are the Indians going to stop using coal? Of course not. Are the Chinese going to stop using coal?
No.
No. The rest of the world will continue to use these sources. And in fact, industries that are dependent upon our natural resources, coal, oil, natural gas, well, they'll just move to the countries that will let them use it, and it will not have any effect on the environment. But this really is not a proposal that should be taken seriously. It was clearly thrown together quickly in an attempt to get some press, and unfortunately 100 members of the body decided to sign on to it. But when you read it, you know it's not there. We've heard all the things that could happen if we take a watered-down version of the Green New Deal. But if we pass the Green New Deal and we actually do what it says, and you read the words, it says, remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. It doesn't say reduce. It doesn't say remove hazardous greenhouse gases. So I would ask my friend who holds a degree in the science field and who we have lots of discussions about science on the floor and at various meetings, what happens if we eliminate the greenhouse gases of water vapor and carbon dioxide? Eliminate them, remove them from the atmosphere as the Green New Deal calls for. What happens if that occurs?
Well, what basically stops is photosynthesis. This is the key component of cellular growth in plants. They take carbon dioxide, they take dirty water, they need to have sunlight, and they produce oxygen and clean water. That's what we actually get with photosynthesis.
And if you eliminate carbon dioxide, the gentleman is correct, we won't have any plants. If we don't have any plants, oxygen plummets in the atmosphere. And as I told a group of high school students recently, and you know what that means for us? And all, if not most, life forms that currently rely on either carbon dioxide or oxygen will die, and all that will be left of the life forms, the microscopic or microbial life forms that live near hot vents in the ocean or the volcanoes' edges, because they don't rely on that. The rest of life will be wiped out. Now, I know that isn't what the Democrats meant when they introduced this, but isn't that the scientific conclusion of removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere? Not reducing, removing. Isn't that correct?
It absolutely would be correct.
And so while I know that they weren't thinking about it and they probably didn't mean to go that far, it shows you that this, even if we modify it, it won't work for the people. The jobs will be eliminated, jobs will be cut, and we really won't have any impact on the environment unless we go the full bore, in which case we no longer have air to breathe, and we won't have to worry about the global temperature in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, because none of us will be here. And it's just fascinating to me how they can get the science so messed up and yet lecture to us about the science.
Absolutely.
And with that, I yield back to the gentleman.
I thank the gentleman. In fact, the gentleman brings up a great point. In fact, there's an article by Michael Schellenberger, and it's why renewables can't save the planet. In this discussion, it's a wonderful article. It's in Quillette. He talks about renewable energy, particularly solar and wind. They're low density. They don't have what they call baseload power. They only produce when the sun is shining and when the wind is blowing. And so you need batteries. And as he states so eloquently here, the new renaissance for batteries isn't coming anytime soon. In fact, we see many of the same people who propose the Green New Deal are obstinate in trying to allow mining for these critical and rare earths that are required for the battery development. In fact, over 90% of the world's market for critical minerals, or these rare earths, are dictated by China. So they're not going to come anytime soon. And then let's talk about the ecological damage. In fact, the wind is the largest destroyer of large birds. Now, small little birds, the cats will take care of. But what ends up happening are raptors like condors and eagles and hawks are the ones who are killed most often by these big rotary blades or turbines that turn. These are the birds that are most at peril right now in our world. So once again, we're dooming the future because we're predominating selection to the government, and that is a sad thing.
Would the gentleman yield?
I would happily yield.
You mentioned, and as you may recall, I'm a bird watcher,
Yes,
and so
you
when
are.
you started talking about birds, I came back to the mic. But and we hope science will solve these problems, and that's why we need to have more research and development on all of this. Instead of saying stop everything, we need to do research and development. But isn't it also a problem today with solar and some of the larger solar arrays that they actually fry birds as they fly over, whether it be small birds or large birds?
Absolutely.
Because the birds don't see the heat, and they fly into it, and they're fried to a crackly crunch.
That's exactly right.
And so there are lots of things we need to worry about in that regard, and I appreciate you bringing it up because what we want to do is have a balanced approach. We want renewables. We want all of the above. But we also have to make sure that we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and in the end killing off our large predators, our predator birds, or killing birds with technologies that aren't quite ready for prime time.
You're exactly right. The renewables are very important because what it allows us to do is take this wonderful wealth that we have of coal and nuclear and oil and gas and hydro and really extend it into the future, where the best way that we can have an impact on this world is our democracy, our republic, our way of entrepreneurial changing things, not having dictations coming by the federal government. The entrepreneurial spirit of individuals. So it's a wonderful aspect to use all the above. And I think that's what everybody would like to see.
Hear, hear.
I
would be remiss if I didn't mention that we're working on some technology right now that will allow us to extract rare earth minerals out of some of our coal deposits in the United States and be able to take some of that business away from the Chinese and bring it back to the United States.
You're exactly right. In fact, the gentleman is very astute in regards to the overburden area where many of these rare earths can be extracted. So we're not dependent upon the whims and wiles of the Chinese government.
And I'm sorry, I just had to bring this up. I was meeting with some folks at Virginia Tech recently who are working on this very area, and as a part of the spinoff of the research and the technology they're doing to refine it and to try to get the other minerals out, they've also found a way using that same technology to improve the steel industry, and they're now licensing some steel companies in India which will lower their carbon footprint. So we have the research into coal that is now going to help the steel industry in an area that doesn't have anywhere near the regulations we have to lower their carbon footprint. This is the way we should be going in the United States. Use our entrepreneurial spirit, use our research, put some federal money behind that research, but use our research to find ways to make the environment worldwide better instead of proclaiming broad edicts that we're not going to have cows in 10 years or that we're not going to do this in 10 years. Instead, let's let our research and our entrepreneurial spirit and our ingenuity solve these problems for us and the world.